Ang kapayapaan po ng Diyos Ama at ating Panginoon.
Peace of the Father God and our Lord Jesus Christ remain in all of us. A good day and good evening, whatever time we are reaching you in your places in different parts of the world. Welcome to our The Old Path Worldwide Bible Study. Now we are going to discuss many issues and different issues of faith. Together with our brethren from the Church of God International, we are thanking the Lord for another good opportunity that we have. Tonight, as we continue with the topic that we are studying in our worldwide Bible study, here is Brother Eli Soriano. Good day to you, Brother Eli. Good evening, brethren in the Philippines, to our fellow men, and whatever time it is that this program is reaching you in the other parts of the world. Thank God for these people who are tuned in to us now. Thanks be to God, and let's continue with what we are discussing. If you remember, what we are discussing is that mentioned, the Big Bang, primordial soup, the evolution, natural selection, ideas that were invented less than 200 or 200 years ago. You know, brethren, the Bible have existed at the time of the Israelite patriarchs. And at the time of the apostles, and beyond the apostles, going back, Genesis was already there. Actually, Genesis and Deuteronomy, that's just one book. It's called the Book of Moses. That book has been already existing 3,500 years ago, if we will investigate according to experts. It means that almost 4,000 years ago, the Bible have already existed, especially the book of Genesis. And it's not just a coincidence, because the book of Genesis is a book of beginnings, for which it is why it's called Bereshit, or translated as Genesis in Hebrew, from Hebrew to Greek. Bereshit, Genesis. Now, what I wanted to point out to you is that for almost 3,500 years ago, there was no man, no news, no document whatsoever that said that man came from apes. There's nothing like that, or that man came from bacteria or one-celled organism. There's no one ever said that throughout all those millennia of time, 3,500 years, 3,600 years, there was no information of whatever document, whatever anecdote, story, or fossil records that speaks of a man coming from apes, like human-like or ape-like, wherein the tail gradually receded and turned into a man. there is this what they call the missing link, which is the basis of these so-called scientists who just relied on Darwin. Perhaps these are scientists claiming to be scientists, but they actually just relied on the deductions and the opinions of Darwin. They just followed him because it is harder to start alone and you are going to research all things. So you'll just take, well, their theory as gospel truth and make others believe it. That man came from apes, from bacteria, etc. The missing link that they're saying, proving that man was from animals or beasts, was listed as one of the top 25 crimes of the century. It is in the Time magazine. Please read this, Brother Daniel.
Crimes of the century. The fake ape man. Eoanthropus dawsoni was the scientific name of this alleged missing link, and it would have been an extremely early example of a creature showing both human and ape-like qualities. At 375,000 years old, it put England in contention for a cradle of humankind being found in the Sussex town of Piltdown. The first Englishman, he was proudly called when the anthropologist Charles Dawson found him in 1911. For decades, Piltdown man was cited along with Neanderthal man and the Heidelberg man as an example of early hominid life in Europe. Then in 1953, the fragments, including a jawbone, were tested. They did not contain enough fluorine to be the age that Dawson claimed. Worse, the jawbone was that of a 10-year-old orangutan. Its teeth ground down to simulate age, and a crude chemical wash applied to the bone to make it appear ancient. No one knows who perpetrated the hoax. Dawson had died in 1916. Very quickly, however, Piltdown became a synonym for phony, and England's claim to antiquity was cut short by several 100,000 years.
Tingnan yung kawalanghiyaan niya ng hindi mga naniniwala.
Look at the shamelessness of those who do not believe in God. They said that no one knows who created this big fallacy. They put the jawbone of an orangutan with the skull of man, so that to make it appear that there is an a likeness of the man and orangutan. They said that's the missing link.
Where's the jawbone was that of a 10-year-old orangutan. Its teeth, talagang kawalanghiyaan no? Its teeth,
It is really a shamelessness. Well, they faked the teeth of the orangutan. Well, to produce something but it's actually fake. Time magazine says no one knows who perpetrated the hoax.
is the worst crime, worst lie, especially when it concerns the honor of the Creator. Para alisin mo yung honor.
To take away the honor from God and to make it to prove that Darwin is correct, that there was no God, there was no creation. What happened was a big bang, and then the primordial soup, and then the evolution. Well, that's what they are saying. In what does the Bible say in the book of Romans, chapter 14, verse 22? It says, the faith that is in you, as thou faith, have it to thyself before God. Happy is he that condemns not himself in that thing which he allows. What St. Paul refers to here is that when he said, blessed or happy is the one that
For what he approves.
he has no reason to judge himself for what he approves. Blessed is that you see that condemns not himself in that thing which he allows. In courts, there is what they call the pre-conference, that they will have to show what are the things that are admitted. Once you said that that is already when you claim that that is a true document, but along the course of trial, you would like to revert your answer, then you will not be able to do so because of the principle of estoppel. Under the rule of estoppel, what you have admitted as a truth, you can no longer change that. That is how, that's the wise judgment. While there's no yet hearing, the parties will have to admit, do their admissions. What is the truth? They will speak of the truth. Under the rule of estoppel, what you have already admitted, you cannot change it anymore because you will fall under the rule of estoppel. And this is what St. Paul was saying. Blessed is the man that does not condemn, that judges not himself in that which he approves. What did you first approve? That the Bible is true and that there is a creator of life, that life did not come from the Big Bang. Now, while you are in the seminary, you also believe that what the Bible speaks of is the truth. You admitted that, right? In fact, you are the ones who are claiming that you are the ones who produced the Bible and that I have I am indebted to them because they compiled the Bible, which is an outward lie, blatant one. Because before the Catholicism, the Holy Scriptures were already compiled according to St. Paul in 2 Timothy 3:15, and from childhood thou hast known the sacred writings which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Christ Jesus. All scriptures is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. St. Paul was telling Timothy as early as 60 AD, because when that was written, that was 65 AD. So he was telling Timothy, all scriptures
is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. So meron na silang compilation noon.
They already have a
It is as
compilation
early
of
as
those
65
books
AD.
as early as 65 AD. But when was Catholicism formed? It was in 330 AD or 600 AD, depending on what date. But it was very remote from your imagination that Catholicism will be formed. So there's no need to compile that. And one of those people were able to preserve the writings is the Essenic community. The Dead Sea Scrolls that was seen in 1947, these are written on animal hides, and the earthen jars were in the book of the Bible were written. It was discovered in 1947. Well, there wasn't even part of imagination that there will be Catholicism then. Um, my point is that none of these scriptures, not of among the scriptures outside the church, whoever will presumptuously or dare to say that man came from apes or bacteria, it's a big um, out a setback because it only started in the past 2,500 years. But barely 4,000 years, there's no such report that man came from apes. No one dared to do that. It's like a new invention, a new lie in the time of Darwin, for which reason I do not believe in that because I prefer to believe the Bible. Well, their theory has no biblical basis. Now, this is the what we're going to do to you, so as we will not we believe that there's a creator of life. It came not from the primordial soup. It's also not from what they call natural selection. Because in the very early age of the universe, the real scientists said that the universe is fine-tuned, which means in all points is in the right order. Distance, movement, and place. That is what scientists call us fine-tuning. The universe existed. Even though the universe was being created. Now, if you now will claim that this is a product of an accident, how can an accident or the Big Bang without an intelligent mind or power to help him put everything in order? Like in a radio, sometimes there are stations that are static and you're looking for how to tune it up. So you watch over the tuning device. Well, that is the place that we should, and that's how the universe of many scientists are saying that it was fine-tuned. Let us read this, Brother Daniel.
Is fine-tuned, and our existence is the proof. When you take stock of what's in the universe on the largest scales, only one force matters: gravitation, while the nuclear and electromagnetic forces that exist between particles are many, many orders of magnitude stronger than the gravitational force. They cannot compete on the largest cosmic scales. The universe is electrically neutral, with one electron to cancel out the charge of every proton in the universe, and the nuclear forces are extremely short range, failing to extend beyond the scale of an atomic nucleus. When it comes to the universe as a whole, only gravitation matters. The universe expands at the rate it does throughout its history, and not at a different one, for two reasons alone: our laws of gravity and all the forms of energy that exist in the universe. If things were slightly different from how they actually are, we wouldn't exist. Here's the science of why.
I want you to pay attention to that particular declaration. Dun sa, if things were slightly different from how they actually are, yung kalagayan nila ngayon, kung iba
Their current situation. If they have a different situation, including the movement, the orbiting, and the oscillate,
why? Bakit they
we wouldn't exist. Well, it cannot be farther or nearer. Can't be stronger, or one is weak. All are exactly
Here's the
fine
science
tuned.
of
Why?
why. Imagine that you came upon a thin, tall, rocky spire here on planet Earth. If you were to place another large rock atop this spire, you would expect it would topple over and either fall or roll down one side, coming to rest down in the valley below. It would be unrealistic to expect the rock would remain perfectly balanced in the configuration where a heavy, massive object remained in a precariously balanced state. When we do encounter this unexpected kind of balance, we call it a system in unstable equilibrium. Sure, it would be far more energetically favorable to find the heavy mass at the bottom of the valley rather than at the top of the spire. But every once in a while, nature surprises us. When we do find the proverbial boulder balanced in unstable equilibrium, we talk about there being a fine-tuning problem. Fine-tuning is an easy concept to understand in principle. Imagine that I ask you to pick a number between 1 and 1 million. You could choose anything you want, so go ahead, do it. Pick a number between 1 and 1 million. Any number that you choose. I'll go ahead and do the same. There, I've got mine and you've got yours. Now, before I reveal my number to you and you reveal your number to me, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take my number once we reveal it, and we're going to subtract it from your number. Then we're going to compare what we get with what we actually expect. And this is going to teach us about fine-tuning. My number was 651,229. When you subtract it from your number, whatever it is, here are some things that we expect. There's a very good chance that the difference will yield a 6-digit number. Number 2, there's a better than average chance that the difference will yield a negative number, but around a 1 in 3 chance we get a positive number. There's only a very, very small chance that the difference will be a 3-digit number or fewer. And if our numbers match exactly, it's very, very likely that there's a good reason, such as you have psychic powers. You've read this article before, or you picked and knew my number beforehand. If the difference between these two numbers is very, very small compared to the numbers themselves, that's an example of fine-tuning. It could be a rare, random, and unlikely coincidence. But your initial suspicion would be that there's some underlying reason why this occurred. If we come back to the expanding universe, that's the situation we find ourselves in. The universe appears to be enormously fine-tuned. On the one hand, we have the expansion rate that the universe had initially close to the Big Bang. On the other hand, we have the sum total of all the forms of matter and energy that existed at that early time as well, including radiation, neutrinos, normal matter, dark matter, antimatter, and dark energy. Einstein's general theory of relativity gives us an intricate relationship between the expansion rate and the sum total of all the different forms of energy in it. If you know what your universe is made of and how quickly it starts expanding initially, You can predict how it will evolve with time, including what its fate will be. A universe with too much matter and energy for its expansion rate will recollapse in short order. A universe with too little will expand into oblivion before it's possible to even form atoms. Yet not only has our universe neither recollapsed nor failed to yield atoms, but even today, some 13.8 billion years after the Big Bang, those two sides of the equation appear to be perfectly in balance.
Ayan. O, nakita nyo mga kapatid, pinaliliwanag dito.
Did you see that, brethren? It is being explained here how we can say that the universe is fine-tuned. What, well, the example that was used, a spherical object. Something like that is very tall but thin. If that tall something which is thin as well, you put on top of it something that is heavy, the tendency is it will crush or it will fall down. It will be in disorder, something that is thin and very tall. Well, my understanding of what the formulator of this was trying to drive at is that you will see nothing like that in the universe. That because it's weak and something heavy is put on top of it, it fell. No, they're perfectly fine-tuned.
And very, very fine-tuned manner. Mahirap lang ipaliwanag sa Tagalog.
It's quite difficult to exactly explain in Filipino, but what they wanted to say that the universe is fine-tuned is that everything in the universe is in order, including the gravitational pull, the movement, everything in the universe is fine-tuned. It's like our world should really be that far from the sun, because a little closer we will burn. If we'll be farther, we will freeze. So everything is exactly in where it should be. Now, the Bible has already spoke of this. Thousands of years ago, the word cosmos, the universe like cosmos, there is an orderly arrangement. Fine-tuned in relation to one another. A galaxy is fine-tuned. That within the galaxy, there are billions of stars that move and exist, and there's no violent accident that had ever occurred. Our planetary system, according to some experts, is between 4.7 and 5 billion years. But our planetary system, it doesn't get out of its order. You know, if it's not in its proper order, they will collide. Because gravity or magnetism may push or pull one thing. Now look at the order of our planetary system.
Example of fine-tuning. And going outside the planetary system or the solar system, we will still encounter things that are fine-tuned. Kasi ang ating pong solar system,
our solar system is a very small part of what we call our own local galaxy, which is the Milky Way galaxy. Now, The Milky Way galaxy contains billions of stars, and the sun is only one of them. And there are also billions of planets. Until now, it's in order, because if in our galaxy there will be a violent collision, we will be affected. We who are in the world, and thanks be to God, there's nothing like that. Now you go out of the Milky Way galaxy, and you will consider the closest galaxy to us, because there is what is called the galactic plane. Now, if you consider one that has billions of stars, the Andromeda galaxy, and other galaxies surrounding ours, you will see that there's really an order, there's a fine tuning. That if one of them will be out of its place, there will really be a big accident and we will die. You will die if they will be out of order. That's the proof that there is fine tuning.
Like the Big Bang is not wise. Hindi matalinong pag-iisip.
It is not wise thinking. Have we read in the past that God is not a God of accident? The original word used is akatastasia in Greek, which means instability. Which means God is not a God of instability, but He is a God of order.
Of an accident, like the Big Bang. Things coexist in order. When God created everything and the entire universe, created everything in order, fine-tuned, in relationship with each other. Taking the vastness of the space and the galaxies that are in space, according to the book of Genesis, it is created. It is not the result of an accident. Yun ang pinupunto ko eh.
That is my point. These things, brethren, it's being contradicted by the Big Bang. That nothing made it. Nobody created. There was just a Big Bang and then stars came out. Now let me invite your thinking and your intelligence.
Alam ko, di naman
Using the Bible as my basis. You know, scientists do not explain this. But with God's help, we will humbly tell you a story that is more believable than the story of Darwin, more scientific than the story of Darwin. Let us read the book of Psalms, Brother Daniel.
94:9.
Chapter
He
94,
that
verse
planted
9.
the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see?
It's a principle of logic and science.
This is a
Speaking
principle
about
of
the
logic and
creator
science.
of the ear. God created the ear. He planted the ear. Shall he not hear? Or he that formed the eye, shall he not see? Ba't ko sinabi ito, principle ito ng logic?
Why am I saying this? This is a principle of logic and also a principle of science. How can you make something that can hear if you yourself do not hear? You can't hear. How can you make something that can be seen if you yourself cannot see? For you to understand the sense of sight, you must have a sense of sight in your own self. Why am I saying that this is a scientific principle? Look, a man can hear, and therefore man has determined how he can hear and how hearing can be more pleasant. So those who are um, using the sound or establishing the sound system in concert halls and venues, event venues, well, they come up with, many systems for you to have a pleasant experience in listening. What am I saying? Why is you look at our ears, does it have curves? Why is it not just one hole? You know why? There is an intelligent designer of our ears so that you will not, you like in a hole without echoes like this. It is something that distracts you, the echoes. Yes, Brother Eli, especially when it is not necessary, because there's an echo that is really being used for the singers, but there's an echo that is not necessary for a gathering like this because they are very distracting, because the sound go back to the speaker. Instead of understanding it freely, you'll not understand it much because the words are overlapping. So a concert hall was designed
the right substances and the right designs, mga curves, mga etc., para walang echo pag nagsasalita ka. Kagaya ng mga pati doon kung saan ang galing yung sound.
like the cinemas these days. You can, the sound system is very good. Now my point is, look at our ears. Why is it not just one hole, straight one? The sound, well, the ears regulate the entrance of the sound to the eardrums once the ear has taken or absorbed the sound, whether from, because, look, if I put this or cover my ears like this or revert your position of the ears, it's like the sound is not good. You look stupid because you're here and when you listen, you have to turn your back to that someone you're speaking with. So that's why the ears have these curves and some place deeper than the others, because it regulates the sound before it enters the eardrums. And not only that, including the bones used, they're not actually bones, there are cartilage or soft type of bones that can vibrate, or meaning to move a little, to modify the sound that will get into the ears, to the eardrums. And that's so wonderful. That's the reason why man was also able to come up with something like an ear that can hear, because he understood the principle how an ear can hear properly. One more thing that we should not forget is that the ears always have grease or wax. It's called earwax. Well, the positioning is very, very wonderful. Is it accident? No. Earwax will filter the bacteria, viruses that may enter, because it's an ears in open. It cannot be closed because you will not hear. It should always be open so you can always hear, but there's a safeguard. Well, the maker of ear put a safeguard. He put earwax so that if there are bacteria, it will not go directly to your brain, which is very close to your ears. Now, is this a big bang? Is this a product of accident? That's why I am telling frequently the Big Bang is in the mind of Darwin and his cohorts. Understanding the ears will give you an insight as to the existence of an intelligent and all-powerful designer. Why? Because he created the ears. He planted the ear and he placed it in a most convenient and most perfect part of our being. Can you imagine putting the ears under your armpit? What will happen to you? The ears is here, and that's the perfect place for the ears. It can't be higher or lower position because the equilibrium of the body will not be maintained, including our movement. The ears have something to do with them. Now, how can you say that that is an accident? For you to see, for example, a computer which has 3 or 4 gigabytes to store everything that is needed, can that it just happen that the plastic, they pack together and then now I'm a computer, I can think for myself? No, that's not possible. Windows, for example, took a Bill Gates to do it. My point is, the word of God, he planted the ears. How can he hear? This is scientific principle. For you to be able to do something that can hear, you yourself should be able to hear. There's a pre-existing condition.
Power.
A pre-existing power.
The ear that can hear. It came from his knowledge, or it came from his ability to hear, to produce an ear. Ang siyensya, ang tao, natuklasan niya na.
Now, science has discovered, man has discovered how is fine-tuning in listening. He was able to come up with something like this. Look at this. This is the ear made by man. What comes out of my mouth, he hears it and translates it into the mixer. And once it's done in the mixer, it will be relayed to the computer. And the computer will send it to the satellite to reach you. For which reason they were able to come up with this kind of microphone that can hear, because the one who created this can also hear. The creator of the microphone knows the principle of transmitting sounds and accepting sounds. Now, the maker of these, the mixers, they do understand that how a sound can be absorbed. It is absorbed, and he who created the eyes, can he not see? It's God who created the eyes. Will he not see? Which means that before a seeing eye, there's already someone who can see, and that's God. And therefore, he was able to create something that can see, because he understands the sense of sight and smell. That's why he come up with a eye. So man understands now how the eyes can see. He had also done other way, the camera. With this, you can have an idea how old am I and how ugly am I, because man was able to do something that can see. You bring it back, the creator understands the way how you can see. The owner, inventor of that, understands how a person can hear and how can speak. Let's go back. Why do we have eyes and ears? Well, there's someone who created it, and the maker the maker can see and can hear. That is the principle of logic. That's logic.
Science.
It's also a
Without such
principle of science.
out of iron, plastic, wood, how can you have that exact materials to assemble together to make a camera that sees or a microphone that hears? Ang magagawa yun. Hindi ba yun because of understanding? Because of intelligence?
Are
Ngayon,
those pieces of understanding because of intelligence? But these cohorts of Darwin deny because they said that there's no intelligent designer. Can you accept that? That a computer has no intelligent designer? Can you accept that the ears, the eyes have no intelligent designer? To reject it is a total stupidity. That's the point I wanted to introduce to you. For you to claim that there's no intelligent designer, that everything came into being because of natural selection. If you really understand the word natural selection, you said that the beak of a kingfisher is long because it needed to eat fishes that are under the sea, and that they become bigger and bigger because of adaptation and natural selection. That's foolishness. It was really done with very long beak. I haven't seen a kingfisher with a short beak like the flamingos who catch fish. Have you seen a flamingo with a beak like that of a parrot? But you see, these evolutionists and those who are claiming about natural selection, that is totally ignoring an intelligent designer. Look at that small fish, or rather small bird that is not designed to eat fish. It has a very small beak that can only run after insects. But these kingfishers, they are created to live on seas. What is that? Is that a natural selection? Who selected? That is really foolishness, because many people do not think, is the ear from the natural selection? Who selected for the ears to look like that? Well, it's because of an intelligent designer who understands that these ears will listen, and therefore the ears have amplifying qualities, so that when you hear the word and as it enters into your eardrum, it's already fine-tuned. You understand me, Brother Daniel? Yes, Brother Eli? Well, because you're a mass communication expert, isn't it that the shape of the ears as well? The shape of the ears denotes an intelligent designer. Well, even in auditoriums, designing of concert halls, the acoustic design, they use sound bounds. They are also avoiding other bounds that can create unnecessary or unwanted sounds. And that they study the design, well, especially the composition of our ears. It's impossible that there's no intelligent designer, because with just a simple thing, for you to be able to come up with a good idea of what you're going to do, or will be your project, then you have to have an understanding of what you want to do. Now, what you're saying, that the creator of the ears, can he not hear? Well, you are showing to us here that the creator understands. If there is a designer, he knows how to understand, how to hear, what is the system of hearing, What should be done for this? Something to be formed. It cannot just be an accident. Go back to your example. It's a simple thing. It cannot be that the camera just came and that without understanding the principle of seeing, how's the principle that you're going to use so that the image that can be sensed by the camera will be transmitted and there will be an image that will be formed in the monitor. All of these, Brother Eli, have an intelligent designer behind it. And as a matter of fact, even their understanding how a small or a faint sound can be made louder, like the design of the ears. It also has a volume control. Well, that's a principle that we can see on the ears. It regulates the entrance of the sound because of the curves on our ears. Well, he knows that a very strong sound, if not regulated, may result to breaking of the eardrums. As you said, if it's just a beginning, it will be easier to be infected and there will be problem in the eardrums. All of these is a product of intelligent and wise thinking of a creator. Like an engineer, for example, he has a principle that he follows, and understanding the principle it is very important, because if you don't understand the principle, you'll not be able to come up with a television or a speaker, a microphone, if you don't understand the principle. Much more so, our entire beings, if no one designed this, if there's no wise who has the knowledge in the composition of our beings, our anatomy is very complicated. How each member connect to one another, it's very satisfying, since it comes from the Big Bang. The neurons have already separated. That's why I said Big Bang only happened in the mind of Charles Darwin. He had defiled and influenced others to believe the same. For example, I say, that computer, that's the reason why you can see me, is that it because of Big Bang. Well, Bill Gates might get mad at you. Just say, Bill Gates, I'm the one who invented that. Well, you can just acknowledge her, because she's really the one who invent food. So they cannot just copy the principle of Bill Gates. Even if they copy, they will have to pass by the original one who patented it. It's a disgrace for Bill Gates to say that I am the one who invented that. It's a plaque on the face of Gilbert that you did not invent them. There's no intelligent designer. The same with the feeling of our God. According to the Bible, He is the maker of all things. Now you will say that there's no intelligent designer. It should only be a natural selection, that it became longer because of the adaptation, because there's nothing they can eat on earth, and being lasted so long a time on the air, its beak becomes longer. Yeah, let us see if that is true. Because the kingfishers, the flamingos as well, that's just how their beak is, because they will only eat those that are close to them. But if it's a rule of natural selection, you might see a flamingo whose length is 2 meters because there's no food here. It will go to some thing another place, which is totally nonsense because everything was created by an intelligent designer. Science has said something on that. It proves their discovery during the Precambrian period, because that is one of the biggest problems of Darwin. That man started from bacteria and single-celled plants and animals. They show Cambrian period, Precambrian, but there is what the archaeologists saw at a given time. Many creatures there in Darwin, because he said that if that's the case, the theory of evolution will be destroyed. Can we read
Cambrian
this, Brother Daniel?
fossils.
Cambrian.
The Burgess Shale is exposed in outcrops of fossil-rich Cambrian rock on Mount Stephen, high in the Canadian Rockies. Charles Walcott, longtime director of the Smithsonian, found the outcrops in 1909. Walcott collected over 80,000 Cambrian fossils there between 1910 and 1917.
Tignan mo ha, ito palang Cambrian
Look at that. This Cambrian fossils discovered in the Canadian Rockies. The investigator collected over 80,000 Cambrian fossils. And if examined with honesty, well, it started from a single-celled plant. Do you know how old it is? Can we put that Burgess Shale? Can we read it, Brother Daniel? Burgess Shale rock.
Exposed in the Canadian Rockies of British Columbia, Canada. It is famous for the exceptional preservation of the soft parts of its fossils. At 508 million years old, it is one of the earliest fossil beds containing soft part imprints.
Tanyo, 508 million years old.
508 million years
Wala pa
old.
namang
The man on earth is not even million years ago, but this one is 500 million years old. Very, very old. It has many fossils of different kinds of living, existing things, more than 80,000 of them. 80,000 fossils that will practically deny evolution. Why? Well, Darwin says he said in his book, The Origin of Species,
Same genera or families have really started into life at once. The fact would be fatal to the theory of evolution through natural selection.
Makita mo, how dare you reject the knowledge of having an intelligent designer, beginning everything, every life on earth from a bacteria or from a bacterium or from a one-celled animal or plant. Kaya sinabi niya sa kanyang librong,
he said in his book, Origin of Species. When was this book written? The Origin of Species. Please put it on screen. To the serious students of the Bible like myself, The Origin of Species is was written by Darwin in 1859, not even 200 years. The Cambrian fossils, it was already 508 million years in the Rockies in Canada, along those lines. Maybe sort of a result of many animals that exist. They were preserved for the Cambrian fossils, aged for 508 million years ago, according to the experts. There has already been so many species that are existing, and Darwin says, when was that Burgess Shale rock discovered?
Covered in 1909, nung isulat ni
when Charles Darwin wrote his book, because it's already St. Paul has already written what he has said before the Cambrian period was discovered. The fossils in there, there's no turning back, because yes, you are not my enemy, but this one who has no God. Darwin says if numerous species belonging to same genera or families,
fatal to the theory of evolution through natural selection. So, mali nga yung
therefore natural selection is wrong if it can be proved that there are those who are already existing for so long ago that did not pass the process of evolution, not in bacteria. They exist at one time. In a way, it's discovered in 1909. It was written by Darwin. 1859, 50 years before Cambrian fossils were discovered in the Burgess Shale. Means that this is one of the oldest proof showing that Darwin is wrong. That started billions of years ago. It started with bacteria, because bacteria is already billions of years ago. In fact, we have a fossil of bacteria which existed 3.5 billion years, billions of years before by natural selection, it will appear that there's an evolution, bacteria and then something bigger than bacteria and then bigger again. And then there are small fishes that grows bigger by natural selection. But how come scientists have found proof that in the Cambrian period they're mentioning it? Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls were not yet seen when he was alive, but someone has seen it. There are already 80,000 species before. That will negate the theory of evolution and natural selection. Do you get my point, Brother Daniel? Yes, Brother Eli, and it can no longer be used or applied by Darwin because his statements were already taken and it was discovered to dispute his claim that it cannot happen, that there will be something like that in our universe. And it shows 80,000 Cambrian fossils denying the claim of Darwin. You can't say that there's really no intelligence designer who created this and created the life, because with what he's showing, it's like say it can't happen But then it was discovered that it already happened. And therefore, Darwin was wrong because there's already a proof that it has existed. The proof cannot be denied by the scientist. You listen to this about the trilobites. Can you read this, Brother Daniel? This is part of the fossils that were seen in Canada.
Members of the phylum Arthropoda, to which the modern insects belong. These creatures left a long and detailed fossil record in rocks beginning in earliest Cambrian and ending in the Permian. Trilobites were exquisite forms having elaborate segmented bodies, cephalized nervous systems with jointed appendages, and swimmerets, antennae, and compound eyes. Because trilobites are extinct forms, we know very little of their life habits except for what we can deduce from association with other forms that do have living representatives and from careful reconstructions of the depositional environments in which they are found.
Ano na, sasabihin mo ngayon, natural selection.
Now, these trilobites are very old, in the earliest Cambrian period. Back then, when you will follow the idea of evolution, it can't possibly exist. It can't possibly exist because it was very early. In fact, we started only in one-celled bacteria. Professor in America says that we came from bacteria. And with gusto, he is claiming that we are came from bacteria, including trilobites that existed in the earliest times of the Cambrian period. It can't be allowed back then, the natural selection and the evolution, because it's still a Cambrian period, but the trilobites existed already with exquisite forms. How come that is already existing when it's a very complex being? It's still in the early Cambrian period. And then it was seen in Alaska that more than 80,000 species were preserved at one time. Well, probably volcanic eruption, and then they have been in a one place, and in the layers of stone, their fossils have been seen, and that might destroy the idea of natural selection. They were fossilized because they were together in a layer of earth. Let's read this, Brother Daniel, the Cambrian explosion.
Refers to the sudden appearance in the fossil record of complex animals with mineralized skeletal remains.
Tamo, meron silang skeletal remains, meron sila talaga mga yung skeleton na na-deposit doon sa...
They have these skeleton deposited in the Cambrian particular place in Canadian Rockies, which is called the Burgess Shale Rock. And the elevation is at 2,286 meters. And you will consider the elevation, you should believe that there's really, well, like some things like this that exist. It's not true that they just evolved. What is in the Bible is that God created all things, and after he did them, it's complete. He rested from his work, which means that things coexisted. God said, let the earth bring forth living things according to his species, according to its kind. So when you will see that when they existed and did not evolve from being bacteria, became a spirogyra. Spirogyra became something bigger. Well, believe me, brethren, for you to deny that there's an intelligent designer who did all these things, well, you are really an enemy of God. For you to believe in evolution and for you to believe in Big Bang, you are denying what is in the Bible. You are totally an antichrist. Let's read that in the book of Revelation. It says, according to those 24 elders and the 4 living creatures.
Brother Daniel.
Marapat ka, O Panginoon, namin at Diyos namin.
4:11, worthy art thou, our Lord and our God, to receive the glory and the honor and the power, for thou didst create all things, and because of thy will they were and were created.
Thou
Let's read in
art
English.
worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created.
For thy pleasure, they are and were created. Created. They did not evolve. They were created. Thou art worthy, O Lord. And remember, who is speaking in this particular verse of the Bible? Itaas natin ito, kapatid na Daniel. 4:9. Brother Daniel, let us read the modern King James Version. Because in the former version, they rendered the word zoo as beast, no? The original Greek word is zoon, a live thing. That is an animal or a beast. Ang modern King James have changed the beast to living being. Because ang implication ng beast sa Biblia ay mali. Mali
Because
sa
the implication of the beast in the Bible is incorrect. It means something evil in the Bible. So the modern King James translated it 4:9 in the modern King James Version.
Living creatures gave glory and honor and thanks to him who sat on the throne, who lives forever and ever. The 24 elders fell down before the one sitting on the throne, and they worshipped him who lives forever and ever, and threw their crowns before the throne, saying, O Lord, you are worthy to receive glory and honor and power, because you created all things, and for your will they are and were created.
For your will or for your pleasure, they are and were created. Ang nagsasalita rito yung 24 elders.
Speaking here were the 24 elders. They are the 24 elders that pre-existed the humanity. For you to contest that God has created everything for his pleasure and his will, because 90% of scientists accepted that. There is already truth, and you're not going to listen to the 10%. If you don't, you'll be like Pilate. When the people shouted, crucify him, 99% was like, perhaps the Christians are not even 1% of the entire number. But the 99% says, crucify him, and therefore Pilate believed in the lies of the Jews and the evil people. And that's happening now. Is it a matter of numbers to prove that something is true?
Absolute truth. Ano ang punto ko, mga kapatid?
What is my point? Not because 90% of scientists allegedly believes in Charles Darwin, evolution, and they do not believe in God. No, I will believe more. The remaining 10%, because these are reputable scientists, they're not only using their minds, but also the thinking of God. That everything came into being because there is an intelligent designer who fine-tuned the universe. And most especially our beings. Because in the Bible it says, God formed man.
Man did not evolve from anything. He was made
Man
directly.
did not evolve from anything. It was made directly out of the dust of the ground. And that is proven scientifically.
With an intelligent designer, even designing the shape of our ears for us to hear as conveniently as can be. Para ngayon, i-dismiss mo yung
for you not to dismiss this idea, to dismiss that there's God and you believe in Darwin, well, you will be among the fools that men came from bacteria. Why? There's already a proof that cannot be opposed by Darwin. I'll bring it to him. You said it's evolution, but how come here in this Canadian Rockies, 80,000 existing beings were preserved here, including their skeleton, which means that that does not pass through the evolution. And they're like that ever since. One of those, the trilobites, existed in the early Cambrian period. And that's what. These are the discoveries in science. You accept what is right. And you are not alone if you accept what is right, because with you are the more than 40 presidents of the most powerful country in the world who believe in God. With you are the hundreds of Christians in the first century, and with us are the animals, birds, because all of them believe in God. The birds, the animals on the field, and with you also are all the devils. Ask me, Brother Daniel, why? Why, Brother Eli? Because there's no there's no atheist devil, because they knew the Lord Jesus Christ and God. Look at what they say in 8:29 of Matthew. And behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come here to torment us before the time? The devils say, why do you want us to suffer? Because before the time comes, they knew that God will punish them, but he's asking, because they knew the Lord Jesus. Listen to the book of Acts of the Apostles. They knew there's God. That's why there is no demon who is an atheist. 5:2 of Mark. When he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stone. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice, and said, what have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. You see, this is the devil as well. What do I have to do with thee, Jesus? You are the Son of God. Believes there's Son of God and there's a devil. And I beseech you with God's help, do not let me suffer, the devil says. Question to you, is there a devil that will strive to be with atheists? No, there's none. Can see the spirit. These are actually fallen angels. They knew that there really is God, but they were convinced by their father to rebel against God, that's Satan. And therefore they became devils. Question, is there an atheist in them that will believe in evolution and the Big Bang Theory and the natural selections? They knew that there's God, there's Christ, the Son of God. Our Catholic brethren do not believe that man came from ape, from evolution. There's a scientist proof that Darwin himself said that if you see many species all together, they exist, that will be fatal to the theory of evolution through natural selection.
The Word of God, even without physical evidence. Pagkaganyan na lang ang choice ko.
If that is my only choice, I would rather believe that man was made from the dust of the earth instead of coming from bacteria. Until here, thank you for following us.